Hey there, friends. Welcome back to As a Man Thinketh on Yanasa TV. So I thought I'd do a quick video. I've been chatting with some of my indigenous friends, and they said to me, Donald Trump just removed our native rights, our native birthrights to be citizens of the United States of America. And I thought, what are they talking about? I had heard a lot about removing birthrights for people who are here in our country from another country that don't belong here. People have different names for them. Some people call them illegal immigrants, but basically people who are in this country, even momentarily, who have a child, and whether or not that child should be considered a citizen of the United States. I don't think that just because your parents are citizens of another country and you're born in a country, in any country, you should be considered a citizen. That's just a bit strange to me. It's a bit of a conundrum, I guess, that a lot of people have issues with. But anyway, I looked into it because I was a little confused. That seems like it would be a little bit backwards for a president, especially one who got such a large indigenous vote.
President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship has been temporarily blocked by a judge who questions whether it's legal. 2 News Oklahoma's Isabel Flores listened to tribal members who say that their birthright shouldn't even be up for question.
President Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship has had a lot of people talking, and not just immigrants, but the Native American community as well. After President Trump questioned Native American birthright in the Constitution, tribal members are taking a stand, not just in person, but on social media too.
President Trump is going after the 14th Amendment, and that's a scary thing.
The 14th Amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. President Trump argues being born in the U.S. doesn't automatically mean people are citizens. Rather, they have to be fully integrated to the U.S. and drop their native status.
My worst fears.
Jared Lee Miller is Cherokee. He tells me he's scared this viewpoint could be used as fear-mongering and impact the country.
And these are just my absolute worst fears. Is that it's going to be used to further break down our sovereignty.
Turns out that was just a bunch of misinformation. What had actually happened was you had the president pass a law basically saying that the children of illegal immigrants that are born here in the U.S. should not be considered U.S. citizens. And his justification for that was that when the 14th Amendment passed, it did not grant Native Americans citizenship, which means the 14th Amendment simply was not a blanket deal. And really, the 14th Amendment was passed in order to make sure that freed slaves would be considered U.S. citizens. It wasn't until 1924 that Congress made all indigenous people U.S. citizens.
The Indian Citizenship Act of 1924 was created to make sure Native Americans were counted as citizens, reading all non-citizen Indians born within the territorial limits of the United States be and they are hereby declared to be citizens of the United States.
Arguably, that was the day they lost a lot of rights, in my opinion, because before that they were a sovereign people on this continent. Native, indigenous people. Once they became U.S. citizens, well, they had to pay taxes. A whole lot changed for them once they became citizens. At this point in time, every single indigenous person in the United States is a citizen, and every child that they have is a citizen of the United States. Nothing changed. Nothing can change that. That was an act of Congress in 1924. I wasn't going to talk about this because I thought it was kind of stupid at first. Not stupid that they thought that. I understand that there's a lot of news stations and other groups that put out misinformation, misleading information. They want people to think something that's not true.
Still, people like Miller tell me this is still very scary to experience.
I didn't think it was worth discussing. And then this weekend happened.
Ancient eras and natural selection have refined and tailored pristine fibers with the resilience for today's days. Evolving beyond the last ice age, bison wool is nature's most dependable activewear. Buffalo Wool Company, 100% proven by nature, 100% American-made.
Check out the Buffalo Wool Company collection at yanasatradingco.com.
Many of you have probably heard the stories about the Tuskegee Airmen and how the DEI removal of a lot of programs in the U.S. government caused the Tuskegee Airmen's story, as well as the first women's airmen's stories, to be removed from training programs within the Air Force. So this caught me by surprise. I did a little research on this because, number one, the DEI programs that they're removing aren't necessarily history and educational programs that are important to the United States, and the Tuskegee Airmen are very important people. What they are working towards with that is removing DEI programs when it comes to hiring. It's important, especially within our military, that our hiring efforts are based on merit. It doesn't matter what race you are, what gender you are, as long as it's based upon merit. You know, this is a very simple, logical thing that most people understand. You earn where you are in life. You reap what you sow. And so that's really what the removal of these DEI programs is. What I found interesting about this was that it quickly became an attack on conservatives. Conservatives that people saying, well, you know, they believe that DEI is systemic racism. And I thought this was a clear example because here we just had a news story that came out that was completely wrong and confused a lot of people. A lot of my indigenous friends were confused by this native birthright situation, not understanding what he actually meant. I think it was poor tactic to talk about the 14th Amendment and specifically mention indigenous groups, but if you read back on the laws, it did specifically exclude indigenous peoples until 1924. But it becomes this big racism game, this big political game. And I think there's a sickness in this country that likes to do this, likes to try and gain political power by playing races against each other. It's a sickness, really. It's disgusting. I don't know, you know, to me, that is the true racism in this country. The absolute true racism. Anyway, I was looking into the Tuskegee Airmen, and I was curious of what recognitions websites like Wikipedia would have on record for them. And obviously, this was reversed right away. And the current administration, they immediately came out and said, no, that wasn't supposed to happen. This was basically somebody taking a stab at their programs and purposefully removing it from training. You know, the Air Force, of course, is saying, well, we removed it while we're under review, but we put it back. Only one group missed that part of the training. But anyway, so I was looking on Wikipedia, right? Because there was an important event that happened in 2020. In 2020, many people probably don't know this, especially if you get your information off the internet like Wikipedia, right? But in 2020, Charles E. McGee was promoted by Trump to battalion general, which is a huge deal. He was promoted to a general status for the work that he did with the Tuskegee Airmen. A huge, huge honor, something that is a historical honor, honoring that man for what he did. When you look up on Wikipedia, Tuskegee Airmen and recognitions, they talk about Charles flipping the coin at the Super Bowl, but there is absolutely no mention of him being promoted to general, brigade general, by President Donald Trump in 2020.
Greatest hero of them all, Charles McGee, was born in Cleveland, Ohio, 1 century ago. Charles is one of the last surviving Tuskegee Airmen, the first black fighter pilots, and he also happens to be Ian's great-grandfather. incredible story. After more than 130 combat missions in World War II, he came back home to a country still struggling for civil rights and went on to serve America in Korea and Vietnam. On December 7th, Charles celebrated his 100th birthday. A few weeks ago, I signed a bill promoting Charles McGee to Brigadier General, and earlier today, I pinned the stars on his shoulders in the Oval Office. General McGee, our nation salutes you. Thank you, sir.
I kid you not. You can scroll through one of the most significant historical events for these folks. An event where a man was promoted on merit, nonetheless. And all they talk about in 2020 was him flipping the coin at the Super Bowl. Now, it was a commemorative coin for the airmen. But, this tells me one of two things. Either, as Americans, we care more about who's at the Super Bowl than we do about people's actual achievements in life, what they've actually done, what they've done for our country. Or, number two, this sickness in our country has gotten so bad that when somebody is honored by somebody who we want to call racist, whether it has merit or not, we want to make people think a certain way about that person. We ourselves, or the people writing the articles, the people who are recording this stuff, will do whatever they can to erase that moment from history so that people don't remember it, so that it's not in the forefront of other people's minds. Because to them, it's more important to make sure that people think that another person is racist. It's disgusting. I mean, you see this every day. You see it all the time. But something's got to give. Something's got to change, right? I mean, if there is, to me, that's what this all comes down to. Pure manipulation of thought to get people to believe something so that they vote a certain way. I mean, why would anybody want to be manipulated that way? If people woke up to it and they understood what was going on, they'd see these people for what they are. And I think people are waking up to it. But it's just both of those situations over this last weekend. This is a beautiful country. I mean, look around you. Whoa. I just heard something crazy. But this is a beautiful country. Look around you. You see an amazing country. It has amazing people in it, too. I love the people of this country. I have a lot of indigenous friends. We don't always agree on certain topics, but something you'll find with me is that my friends and I don't agree on a lot of things, but we have good conversations. That's what makes us friends. Anyway, my point is that it's an amazing country, an amazing place. But then we have these sick people out there that are constantly trying to twist things and tear people apart over, to try and convince them to vote a certain way. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It's sad. I wish there was something I could do about it, but there's nothing I can do about it except for talk about it and bring attention to the fact that this is going on, and it needs to stop. And the more of us that point it out, the more of us that point fingers at it and say, shame on you, the more likely it is to stop. But this has been something that we've seen again and again over the past week. And it's disgusting, As for illegal immigrants, I don't think that being born in a country establishes your citizenship. If I was born in another country, I wouldn't want to be a citizen of that country. I want to be a citizen of the country that my parents are from. And I do think, there are ways for people to switch countries, for people to come into countries legally, and I think that they benefit countries considerably when it's done correctly. I'm not against any of that. But, this dialogue that's out there is so negative, so convoluted. I try not to let it anger me too much. Anyway, guys, that's my little tidbit today. I'm out looking for wildlife. And I don't know if the microphone picked up on that. It sounded like something flew right by my head a few seconds ago. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this. That was weird. Anyway, guys, stay safe out there.